Well, good evening, and thank you for joining me today for Disciple Time as we're continuing in our Resolution Keeper series. And this week here at Holy Communion, our focus is looking forward to the benefits of our resolution. I mean, there's two types of people when it comes to resolutions, right? Those who are in it to win it, and, they do what they do for the results and the benefits, and then those who are in it for the process. And those types of people still enjoy the benefits, but they also enjoy the process of getting there. So it's like the results based person and the journey type person. And I think we could see our resolutions then kind of like a road trip, right? And I just took a nice road trip. And while we keep the destination in view, we shouldn't lose sight of the journey because in that journey, we learn about the transformation process. And that's important. Having insight into the transformation process is incredible. And so I want to share with you a really cool diagram that I found on this, and it's called How Change is Created. I mean, let's look at what we have been learning here all along. First, we picked a resolution. That's an idea, right? And from there, we begin to think about the resolution. And those thoughts then produced feelings about the resolution. And then, following the pragmatism of Christ, we formulated a plan. If you remember back, we looked at how he fed the 5,000, and we broke that down into a plan. Then we begin to implement that plan and engage in action. And then the more consistent action we engage in, we begin creating habits. And once we establish habits, we then had to decide to commit to those habits. And those habitual commitments then lead into our lifestyle, which the Bible oftentimes talks about in terms of conversation. Your lifestyle is your conversation or your way of life, right? And this ultimately leads to first subtle and then complete change. And that is the transformation process in a nutshell. And learning that process is just as valuable as seeing the benefits. And so we have process, that whole journey right there, how change is created, and then the benefits kind of at the end of that transformation. Interestingly enough, this diagram is set up like an ascending octave, kind of on a piano, with the eighth circle being the new you, sort of like the eighth whole step in a piano goes from like middle C to then a higher frequency C. So I thought today I would just share that very important piece of the transformation puzzle, right? Recognizing that we rely on the grace and divine power of God to assist us all through that 8-step process here, right? And it's important to always remember God's divine role in the transformation process. It's not just our effort. Some of my biggest steps in life and my biggest transformations have come as I opened myself to God's grace and just allowed his grace to work in me. And that's really why I love the reading from Sirach today. And so we look at Sirach chapter 2, verses 1 through 3, and we read this. My son, when you come to serve the Lord, stand in justice and fear. Prepare yourself for trials. Be sincere of heart and steadfast. Incline your ear and receive the word of understanding. Undisturbed in time of adversity, wait on God with patience, cling to him, forsake him not. Thus you will be wise in all your ways. And what an awesome set of wisdom passages to kind of lead us into a humble position to experience change, right? And patience, these waiting on God, all this is so important. And Sirach actually reiterates this theme in chapter 2, verse 6, where we read, trust God and God will help you. Trust in him and he will direct your way. And this is teaching us not only how to enjoy the benefits of our resolutions, but also how to engage the journey, right? God's going to be with us in the way. And so we have this wonderful mingling of kind of like our labor and God's divine power. And these things work together. So we have to remember that in this transformation process, that a lot of it is, moving from idea to thoughts to feelings um, to making a plan, to having habits, to having commitment and lifestyle, and then a change. And then a big part of that, though, is also allowing God's grace to help you through that whole changing process. And, this is interesting because our gospel reading today, Jesus and his disciples, they're on a journey, right? And they're moving through Galilee. And what are they doing? Christ is introducing ideas that people can think about. He's letting those thoughts that people have create feelings in those people. And some of those people were reacting well to those feelings, some weren't. And he was counting on those feelings, though, driving the people on a mass scale into action. And for some, those actions actually did become habits, and those habits became commitments, and those commitments became a lifestyle, and that lifestyle led to change. And then that change in the lifestyles of all those people, as Christ introduced those ideas, radically transformed the culture and society of his day. And guess what? He was very successful at moving from idea to thoughts to feelings to plans to habits to commitments to lifestyle to a transformation and change. And interesting enough, right, on that journey, he really reiterates the importance of being Christ-like as he introduces these new and radical countercultural ideas that, were kind of radical in his day. And it led people to really consider some fundamental views they held about leadership and what it meant to be first and all this stuff. And so we read in Mark chapter 9, verse 35, where Jesus says, if anyone wishes to be first, he shall be least of all and servant of all. And I don't see why I need to fix that. It says last of all instead of least of all. But that's it. If anyone wishes to be first, he shall be least of all and servant of all. And so what is our application today? It's this. Realize the process of transformation, and you can accomplish and become anything. Well, thank you for joining me today as we are looking forward to the benefits of our resolution. We'll see you next week.